I started from my basement as a contractor and eventually grew it to 18 states and 173 million in sales.
Booyah, baby!
I just think that the vague term negotiated claim is being misused to make people think suddenly you can't act as an American citizen or entrepreneur because that violates the Constitution.
And I looked at him and said, look, if you change this plan, you're going to have to deal with the repercussions down the road. See, that's when I got in as a sales guy doing this, knocking doors.
What do we do? Like, how do we grow? We had no idea.
What you've created here now is like unbelievable.
And everybody's ignoring what we saw with the 95% of property casualty claims, which are $10,000 claims on average.
Exactly.
Booyah, baby!
This is our country. This is our liberty.
Hey guys, Anthony Medico SVG. We're here live on the Speakeasy. I'm actually behind the bar tonight. Usually I sit there. Got a lot of folks on here. We got Ink Payments. We got Ryan Wetzel, Ken Lawler, and Ryan Holliday. And we're here to talk about that claims payout process. So we got a new service that you guys are offering. Tell me a little bit about it.
So essentially what we're doing, Tony, is we have taken the claims payment process as it exists today with a paper check. It's a very long and cumbersome process, confusing, and we have digitized it so that folks can get access to their insurance proceeds within as little as 24 hours after that claim check is received. And we're working towards the future of eliminating the check entirely, but still think we've done some pretty amazing things at this point.
So you guys, in essence, you're funding the mortgage payment in certain situations.
Yep.
So that the contractor can get the check and money faster. You're doing it at a great fee, by the way, less than 2%, because some of your predecessors in the industry were hovering around 10%, which is great to get your money in 24 hours. That's one thing, but there's also something. Let's start with this. Let's talk about the process that the typical contractor goes through to get that first ACV check. So, take a $20,000 claim, for example, residential. Johnny goes out, gets an adjustment, signs it. A couple weeks later, adjuster shows up. Let's just throw out a date. We'll throw out March 1st. March 1st coming up? We're pretty close, yeah. So March 1st, my adjustment is, adjuster buys it. I'm the sales guy. I'm all excited. Hey, I got my $20,000 job bought, RCV. It's usually going to take about another 2 to 3 weeks, probably 3 weeks, before Mrs. Smith gets that check, correct?
Yep.
She gets the check, opens it up. It's first time she read proof of loss. First time the contractor always saw proof of what they said they were going to buy, because sometimes that changes. And now she's got the old mortgage company on the check. Typically she's going to open it up, call her salesman. The salesman might get out there maybe a week later to actually formally contract the job, pick up the check. Check and job file usually sits in salesman's box for another week, drive around the back of his truck before it gets to the company. So now we're talking about maybe April 7th, 2 weeks later, before that AR manager, production manager actually sees the job file with a check.
Yep.
But guess what happens when Johnny turns in that job file? Chase Mortgage or whatever mortgage company's on it. Oh, now we got to send it off to the mortgage company. This is one of the biggest pain points in the industry. Because we have mortgage companies on a check. Not only is the insurance company slow anyways at distributing paper checks, now the mortgage company's on there. Now the AR manager, someone's got to send it off to the mortgage company for sign off. Right. Send it back, and we all know that can take up to another 3 or 4 weeks if we're lucky.
Absolutely.
And now that check goes back to the property owner up to 30 days later. Now we're looking at May 7th before the property owner gets that check back from the mortgage company. Johnny's got to go back again, physically pick up that check that was distributed by that mortgage company back to the homeowner, turn it into the company. Most companies are a 3 to 4 week build cycle. So now we're looking at possibly June 7th, another 3 or 4 weeks before we can start that job when we got it bought on March 1st. This is a typical residential insurance payout case with a mortgage company on it. Am I right?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Some of that might be sped up a couple weeks. Some of that might take some of that can take even a month longer.
Right.
Where you guys are interjecting your service is really at that first, at the first set when the salesman meets with the customer, explain your portal. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But when that check comes to the customer now, you have a portal. This is really interesting. You have a portal that allows them to photocopy that check and get immediate disbursement to the contractor or whatever pays on there, et cetera. Let's talk about that. Let's pick it up from there. So homeowner gets that first, at $20,000, they're probably going to get $10,000 ACV.
Yep.
That's usually used to start the job. How do we speed up that 60 days before we can build the job?
Well, it's pretty simple. One of the things that we're going to do at the beginning of the process is determine how that claim is going to be monitored in the eyes of the mortgage company. So are they going to just stamp and release, as we like to say, and get that check back in that 3 to 4 week time frame? Or are they going to monitor it, deposit that check, and then make disbursements? So we're going to find that out at the beginning.
And I learned this early from me. I learned something new from me. I've been in this business 20 years. I was always wondering why some mortgage companies get that first check and stick that in escrow.
Yeah.
So if we take this job, for example, right? The first check, let's say, is $10,000.
Yep.
A lot of mortgage companies, half the time, will stick that $10,000, which is just the ACV check, which they need for labor and material.
That's right.
Stick that in escrow and release $3,000, which is nothing to start that job, right? And that's called a
monitored claim.
monitored claim.
That's right.
And then a monitored claim is typically claims that are over 40,000,
Yep.
correct? And or someone who's delinquent with their mortgage payments or has a bankruptcy on a record or whatnot in the last 2 years.
Yep.
And that's when you have this escrow thing happening. So there are two differences in how mortgage companies treat these. See, I didn't know that. I just assumed everybody went into escrow.
Well, yeah, no, it's it seems like they do. You know, you only remember the real.
Because there's a lot more that are monitored these days, correct?
There are, and
Because of delinquencies, COVID, and stuff like that.
yeah, there's been a lot of challenges over the last year for a lot of folks, and so if they've had any trouble on their mortgage, then more than likely there's going to be some monitoring going on with that claim. So yeah, I think we're going to see a little bit of a spike there, but historically the number isn't too high. You know, maybe it's 1 or 2 out of 10, but for the most part, you know, a lot of the claims are non-monitored. But
Especially if they're under 40. So 40,000 is that threshold.
it is
correct?
that
Under
threshold.
40,000 is
So total-
typically non-monitored.
Total claim amount is not over 40,000. It's typically not monitored unless there is that, you know, mortgage delinquency or something else going on
Right.
with the mortgage. So we figure all that out in the beginning, so that way you're not kind of jumping through hoops after the fact. You know, send the check off to the mortgage company, and then 3 weeks later it comes back because you didn't endorse it in its entirety. So you know, it's terrible to just waste that time to then find out, oh, okay, I've got to run this check back around, get all these signatures, and then send it back to the mortgage company again, and then they're only going to send me a little bit of this check, which you had alluded to earlier.
Yeah.
It's not even going to take care of tarping or even the materials themselves. So,
And again, monitored means, you know, mortgage companies require a whole lot of paperwork being turned in, scope of work, contract, all that kind of stuff, which is a hassle, but also that they have to send an inspector, usually a third-party inspector out, to take a look at that job once it's in progress or once it's finished to ascertain if the trades are complete. And then they take another 2 or 3 weeks to distribute that, which causes a massive cash flow program for the contractors watching this right now. So I get it. I used to deal with it. We had one lady at our office. All she did was handle mortgage endorsements back in the day when we were real busy. And we were sending out prepaid FedEx envelopes to mortgage companies trying to get money back faster. It's a conundrum.
Yeah.
yep.
It's a conundrum cash flow game.
We've even had claims where they sent out an inspector to inspect a loss before they've even cut any check. It's
really?
called a pre-inspection of the loss. And so, you know, we've had a licensed insurance adjuster, you've had a check from an insurance company, and the mortgage company is sending out an advisor or a pre-inspection of the loss just to make sure there was a loss, even though we have all this legitimate paperwork from the insurance carriers. It's complete nonsense. And, you know, that's why we've worked to really eliminate that process.
Well, the good news is the non-monitored claims by the mortgage companies, if they're under 40,000, that's pretty much 95% of all property casualty claims out there. I think it hovers around 10 or 11,000 nationwide.
Yeah.
So most of the claims are going to follow under the non-monitored area, which is good
Yeah, that's good.
because you're not going to have that money go shoved into escrow per se if they're under 40 grand. Tell me about now when that homeowner picks if someone signs up and uses your services. Let's say we'll call Johnny the sales associate, like Johnny. Johnny shows up at that first sit. It is explaining his process that's going to help the homeowner get their money released faster from the mortgage company, going through your portal once they get the check. So the homeowner's already kind of prepped and aware that there's a professional avenue to distribute that money and get it distributed versus just handing Johnny the check and waiting for their job to be built. We can actually speed up this whole 30 to 60 day mortgage process. So we're actually introducing that at the first sit, correct? As a custom branded landing page.
Yep.
For the company who signs up, where you have a portal where you guys can process this check as soon as the property owner gets it, correct?
Absolutely.
Yep.
So tell me about when Mrs. Smith opens that check up 2-3 weeks later in the mail. It's still coming from the carrier. We wish we could speed that part up. I know you guys are working on that too, but
We are.
we still got that 2-week window, 2 to 3 weeks for Mrs. Smith. She opens up that check. Talk to me about what she's going to do. I saw a little bit earlier today in the green room. Let's talk about what she's doing with that check in terms of the portal.
Sure. So, real simple. She's going to go to that co-branded landing page. So let's just say it's ABC Roof as an example. So Johnny goes out, provides abcroof.inkpay.com, and that homeowner is going to take that check, take a picture of the check right at the portal, upload it to our system, answer a few questions, click submit, and then we're going to digitally obtain all the additional endorsements that are needed to get that check green, or we're going to provide instructions of what needs to happen, so it needs to go off to the mortgage company yet, but we can still fund that. So in
You
those,
still fund it.
that's right. So in those non-monitored situations where
Up to 40 grand, correct?
that's right. So
Okay.
anything up to $40,000 total claim value that we've determined there's none of that delinquency or bankruptcy issues going on with the mortgage company, then we can fund those. In fact, the following day. So after we've verified that check, it's been uploaded into our system. Everyone signs off on it. We can have the funds
For less than 2%.
for
So
1.95%.
1.95%.
We can have those funds in that contractor's account the following day to get that customer into scheduling right away and build faster than anyone else out there that's
And then you
even
guys,
knocking on
and
the
then
door.
at that point, you guys are dealing with the mortgage release and sign off later
Oh, yeah.
on. So let's take that Johnny job there. I got a $10,000 check. And look, that's not one job's not a big deal. Some contractors can wing one job,
Absolutely.
start the labor and material. But back in the day when I had 10 offices, they're gonna have one office where 30 residential jobs are showing up in a week.
Yeah.
And if it's mortgage company, therein lies the cash flow problem. It's volume times percentage. You know what I mean? So even a small job times a lot can create a huge conundrum.
Right.
That $10,000 check, instead of going through all this process I just described, we're really not going to see that check back from the endorsement from the mortgage company up to 60 days later.
That's right.
I can get funded within 24, 48 hours, one business day, two business. Is it 24 hours, 48 hours, or
In some cases, we could do it same day if you get it in early enough.
hell, even
but-
3 days would be
Yeah.
it's better than 60. But
Well,
you know,
yeah, 24 to 48 hours. I
24 to
feel
48
is,
hours
is fair to
is
say.
great. And I get that $10,000, which means not only is my salesman paid faster, you sales guys will like that as far as a draw, but I actually got some cash flow to start start funding my job with some labor and materials to start that project.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the other challenges that goes along with this process, what we like to call chasing the money, and Ken can tell you all about that. He's got someone that's worked for him that literally did just that, just running around for signatures. But
Yeah, $800 a week we paid him just to go get signatures from homeowners, sit in local mortgage companies that had a local presence on the endorsement side, local credit unions, and it may take 30, 40 minutes just to deal with that banker. And then obviously during COVID, their banks aren't open for just walk-in, so you have to make a scheduled appointment with that banker and then sit down and then fill out the W-9s and the waiver of liens, and it's just a cumbersome process. And so as a public adjuster by trade, we want to facilitate as much customer service on our end as we can.
Yeah, because
So-
you're currently, so you're one of the founders. You're also currently
I
a
am.
licensed public adjuster in Florida and
Just in Florida.
Florida, okay.
Yeah, we've got 3 offices.
Fifth Element.
Fifth Element Adjusting is the name of the company, yes, sir.
So even as a public adjuster,
Yep.
oftentimes public adjusters, they get their name on a check. The check comes to them,
Right.
but there's also the mortgage issue for them to handle.
Absolutely. Well, to be honest with you, in 2016, September of 2016, it's when Ryan and I got together, and oddly enough, we were not at a speakeasy, but we were at a sports bar and watching the Jaguars play in Jacksonville, and just over a couple beers, just talking about his pipeline and my pipeline and how they kind of like meshed together with a real bottleneck. And we both started talking about how many fees or how many jobs do you have held up right now in the mortgage industry, and we just started spitballing numbers, and just really came to a point. I was like, hey, I got $80,000 of my own fees at one point tied up in a mortgage company at some time.
See, I never knew that. I always
Yeah.
assumed the PA, since they got their name on the check and they got the check first, I kind of assumed they just deposit it and maybe they didn't have to deal with the mortgage company. But you're saying that's not the case.
Yes,
They have the same issue that the contractor has.
100%, 100%. And what I can tell you about my business today versus before is, back then it was, 1 or 2 people in my office helping me and really directing that traffic. But now, we've grown as a company, but the advent of the products that we're building at Inc. Has made our cash flow really much different situation. And, the less time I have to spend continuously pushing that claim forward, and we can focus on a claim that hasn't been paid yet or hasn't been properly paid, really frees my staff up, because now with ink payments or with ink now, we can go ahead and fund that. And yes, it does cost me 1.95%, but the reality of it is, in my office, that claim stops because we've gotten the funds, we've gotten paid.
Well, I'll tell you, 1.9. I know guys that happily paid. Several years ago, there's some folks that did all this stuff, and they charge 10%.
Sure.
And there's guys that sometimes they got to make payroll on Friday. Sometimes they got 20 jobs they can't start, and they would have happily paid 10% to get that money released within 24 hours. Here, you guys are at 1.95, which I think is a very extremely fair value in terms of fee. It might even be a little low.
And it could
Just
be.
kidding, guys.
It could be, but I think the other thing, the great benefit from a contractor or for a sales rep or even a sales manager is that if you're bringing on a staff and you're competing against other people in the marketplace, we know that this is a pipeline business, and if you're a new sales rep trying to make a name for yourself in a saturated market, it's hard to really be able to pay for your family's needs and then also build your pipe because it takes so long to get paid. But with our service, you're able to pull that trigger yourself as a sales rep and say, hey, I'm going to make 10% on this claim, and we need rent or we need new shoes or whatever the case may be. But you're in control of your own pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
You have ink now, and you're able to. We're going to let you know that this claim can be part of the ink now process. And if you decide to give 2 points away or 1.9% of your pay to get paid today, that's freedom, right? Because now you can still build your pipe and be successful day to day, but looking towards the future. And so, our goal at Ink is to really build products and services for the industry that we work in and love, and that's the restoration industry. So,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of times also where, if you guys ever watch Lord of the Rings, My Precious, the Gollum, the ring, they don't want to let it go. A lot of times homeowners don't want to let that check go, or the longer they hold on to that check, or the longer the check goes back and forth to mortgage companies means some other guy knocked my door, I got another flyer over here, there's all kinds of weird, people waving deductibles, all that kind of stuff, and people sometimes change their mind.
Right. My neighbor got this. Why am I? Yeah, absolutely.
And so we're speeding up the collection process, which is good, moving into a formal build contract, but also getting the salesman paid, and really, let's talk about when that second check comes now. So we'll explain. So it's not just the first check. Yeah. We finish the job. We got to send the COC to the carrier. They send a check back. A lot of times that second check will often have the mortgage company on it too.
Yep.
There again, we have the same thing we got to run through, which is now we got to send it off. Mortgage company sends it back to the homeowner. Now that sales associate, typically it's a sales associate picking up the checks in most cases. He's been in that house 4 times, picking up the mortgage release check since the adjustment. Now he's got 6 visits to the house versus 2.
Right.
And so you're speeding up the bill, but you're also saving that salesman that company time, going out there grabbing checks, processing the check. Tell me how you guys act on the tail end of that, where the COC is released to the carrier.
We can actually help out with that. So really, our goal is to help you move the money with your insurance claims as quickly as we possibly can. And so as part of our service, we can submit that depreciation request for you so that you don't have to remember to send it in to the carrier or remember who to send it to at the carrier. And one of the things I think that's important to note, especially for Ken's situation, is we're working on some new solutions that are going to allow you to get paid as the PA or get paid as the attorney, and we're still working on the legalities around that, but making sure that you can get your funds and move on down to the next job while everything's still going on with the monitoring. So
you can actually, in your system, you can hit a button and make sure, let's say it's a PA and contractor joint party job, you can make sure that the 10% gets paid to the PA and the 90% goes to the contractor in real time.
Yeah, and in fact, I'd love to have Wetzel share about our platform. Our CTO over here has really built out an incredible team that's putting together kind of a Venmo experience, I guess you could say, for insurance restoration. But share if you could about
Ryan's
what we're doing.
He's the tech wizard.
Yeah, the Boston guy, the only guy not from the South in this. So yeah, I mean the
You don't have the Boston accent.
I don't know because I'm a transplant.
Boston,
but I've been there long enough. I should, right? But no, the whole thing about the product is making this as painless as possible, right? And there's not a lot, in my opinion, things out there that in the restoration industry that contractors can use in the field on their phone, and it's seamless, right? So my whole job has been making sure that when they're putting files into the system, it's easy, it makes sense, they can get it done quickly, and then it goes back to the home office and they can finish the file up, right?
Mm-hmm. So there's 2 options then. So the homeowner could actually photocopy this check through the portal, or the salesman, if he's on it, he can go back and take his phone and photocopy through the portal. Is that correct, the check?
full mobile friendly.
Because some sales guys like me back in the day, when I sold back in the day, it was 1999. I was always there no matter what. So I'd show up especially on a bigger job, show up when that check picks up, and I could actually click that, take it to the portal, and as long as I was on this program on a non-monitored disbursement, I could get that within 24 hours into the company account through the portal. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
That's right.
That's amazing.
Yep.
That's amazing. So the salesman or whoever's copying that check is really pushing that through the to get paid immediately.
It's all real time. If you're the sales guy, you're sitting there with the homeowner, you can take a picture of the check for them, and they get a notification on their phone. They have to, look at it, approve it, and say it's good to go, and then there it is. Then the money moves.
Less paper checks running around is always good. There's always a liability. If you I hired a lot of salespeople over the years. I had some great ones. Most of them were pretty good, but everyone, 1 out of 100, I always had that one knucklehead that thought they could do the old, well, I'll take the customer check and deposit that into my account. Or they somehow pay me the order at Tom Smith. That's my sales guy. Yeah. And that happens. And another thing I like about this is this is a secure way of getting paid where you don't have 1099 sales associates. No offense, I was a 1099 too, but a lot of folks that aren't even employees out there picking up some big checks, running around checks in their buckets. I had a guy one year, he had 3 or 4 job files and ACV checks in his we call it bucket, the plastic bucket in the back of the seat. Yeah. Someone broke his car and stole it. 4 ACV checks went out the window. And who knows, we had a call, get checks canceled, all that. But I like this because it's an immediate disbursement through electronic from the kitchen table versus having to take that check away.
Right.
And it's liability.
100% secure as well. I mean, we have a couple banking partners that we're able to move this money through, and so.
Now, which bank is this all run through a parent bank? I'm assuming.
Yeah, our sponsor bank is Avidia Bank.
Okay. Is it the one also helping with the financing arm for the contractors?
They're one of them.
Okay.
They're one of them. We have another one called Bridge Bank that we are partnered with to help with the funding aspect of our platform. But everything is 100% secure. It's FDIC insured, and we take all of our data privacy and security very seriously. So.
Nice. Well, I can see where a lot of guys would like this. Now, you shot a course today in a green room. You and I did. You got a 7-chapter course going inside SVG University. So, guys, watch this. Use SVGU. You can kind of learn the step-by-step process of how this all works inside SVGU. You guys are also going to be at the Wind and Storm Conference in New Orleans.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And you have a booth there. Did you guys pick out your booth yet?
We do. It's number 228, and it's going to be on the left side over near the concession area. So stop on in and.
Are you guys doing some kind of little?
Yeah, we're probably going to be giving some money away for sure. But I mean, anyone who wants to learn about speeding up their AR and fixing the cash flow problem that everyone is kind of held mercy to in the insurance restoration business, just come on over to booth 228 and we'll show you how to get rid of all those problems.
Well, I think the insurance company payout process is already complicated, chaotic, and slow. When you add the mortgage company factor, it's tenfold.
Yeah.
And it affects a lot of guys on cash flow. Everybody's always looking for a way around it. The reason we brought you guys in, I thought it sounded great. I always want you guys to come in so we can walk through the whole program, investigate it, see how it works, and the technology is great. It's hitting the market at the right time. So, guys, look, come see these guys at the Wind and Storm Conference, Trade Show Expo, New Orleans, March 31st, April 1st, and 2nd. For some of you that are in SVGU, quite a few of you guys watching this, you can watch their course. Should be up here within 2 weeks. They can watch you go inside SVG University and really learn how to interject this in their sales process. That's key on day one to get the customer associated with it and then see how seamless and how easy it works. Now, everybody watch this right want me to ask, how much does it cost to sign up for this?
It's free.
Free?
Yeah.
How much is a cool little custom landing page you're going to make for me and my guys?
Free.
Free?
Yeah.
So
Everybody likes free.
So I get a little nice seamless landing page set up for my company, which, by the way, makes my company look a little more what?
Professional.
Cool, professional, on top of stuff versus the old school system.
Yep.
And I'm also educating, my newer sales associate here would be educating a property who's probably never been through this before in most cases.
Absolutely.
A lot of times they get a check and they don't even know the mortgage company's going to be on it. And they weren't told ahead of time, for example.
Right.
I didn't tell my customers the first year because I didn't even understand how that worked. And now you're providing them a tool and some education up front at the first sit. Here's a portal on how to use it. I'm sure the customers go in there. You said you had some kind of educational stuff for the customer to watch, or
Yeah, it's actually very user-friendly as it sits, but we have, a ton of support behind us. You can email us, call us. We're always there to help, and we're going to continue making it as user-friendly as we possibly can and as simple as we can, to the point where, almost if you want to talk to it, you could probably tell it to do some commands in the future. But our ultimate goal is to eliminate the check entirely. It's 2021. Why are we still dealing in mail and paper checks? It's kind of ridiculous, but...
yeah, no, I went to Australia several years ago, 2013. Everything was paperless.
Yeah.
Like almost nobody wrote checks there.
Yeah.
Your payroll, disbursements even from the carrier. I mean, everything was to the labor. Everything was push button, push button, push button. I was like, man, America, everybody's still writing checks.
Absolutely.
We're catching up to the Aussies for sure.
We are.
Good. Well, again, guys, you see these guys, check these guys out. Winter Storm Conference, Trade Show and Expo, New Orleans. And then you guys are also, I heard you guys might pop in at next Monday night at the Jacksonville event.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So Jacksonville, we got a little event in Jacksonville. I've never been to Jacksonville, believe it or not. I've been all over Florida. That's one city I've never been to.
Great town.
So we got 100 guys coming to that. You guys come and get a preview in Jacksonville. If you're coming to the Jacksonville event, that's our Road to the Winter Storm tour. Those are always fun. We go to a whole tour along the southern seaboard in Jacksonville, Pensacola, all the hurricane areas. Gulfport, Mississippi, another place I've never been to. Mobile, Alabama. Back to Lake Charles, where I spent 45 days right after the storm hit. And then we're going to drop the Sprinter off in New Orleans next Friday. So we got a whole little road tour. Excited about that. Cool. Excited to have you guys on a Speakeasy day. Guys, look out for these guys. They're coming in strong. Ink Payments. Do we got a website for them to check out?
We do.
Inktech.com, right?
Inktech.com.
Double I-I-I-T-E-C-H.
IINKTECH.com.
There you go.
Yep.
.com, man. Check these guys out. Booyah, baby.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about.
Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.
It just bridges the gap at the end of the day, right?